there, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your midday market report for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022. As we get closer to the madness starting again tomorrow, the Sweet 16, and then on the weekend, the Elite Eight, and then we will have our Final Four set. In between the breakfast bankroll and starting up this show, breaking news. I was getting a lot of texts that Hill was on the move, and it was the Jets or the Dolphins, and the Dolphins stepped to the plate and, gave up a boatload, 5 picks for Tyreek Hill. Now we'll be playing alongside of Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki. They added Mozart. And it's Tua. It's make or break time for Tua. Big hit on Kansas City side. They added Juju. They will be drafting some wide receivers. They still will make some moves. My quick 2 cents on this was, as a high-stakes fantasy player, I have had Tyreek Hill a lot, and he has paid great dividends. I get bashed every time I celebrate a touchdown or put up the peace sign as he's blowing by someone, but and I what he did off the field, I'm not here to preach. I'm not the judge or jury. I'm not defending the man, but in the NFL, as Scotty said it, unless you do something egregious, come hell or high water, you're going to be on that field, and this is just what happens in the NFL. But enough about that. Today, our weekly check-in across the border, and I was blessed, and I will say this, I was honored to finally meet Andrew, and what a guy. He comes across over the screen as a pure gentleman and knowledgeable. I don't want to say one of the up-and-coming. He is the up-and-coming in these spaces, and to meet him personally at Westgate over the weekend, at Wager Talk, they put on a hell of a show in the clubhouse over the weekend, and then to sit with him Sunday, watching the overtime game, and I was blessed. And I will just throw this out there: if you have not met this gentleman, I would suggest to get a step stool. Man, this guy is big. Let me tell you something. I know hockey, I know Canada, but this guy should have had a basketball in his hands. This guy is tall, and you can't tell it by sitting on the stool and behind the mic. But again, as you can see, I'm smiling ear to ear. I am so blessed to have him on. So let's bring him on. Andrew McInnis, come on down.
Hello. Man, it is great to be here. We talk about using our passports all the time. Well, I just had to use mine yesterday, and I'm back home in the Great White North. It was an honor and pleasure to meet you as well, and finally be able to chat and have some of those conversations in person. Because as we always say, it's just not the same over the screen. As much as it's nice to catch up, it was just so great to finally meet in person. And I'm really happy we got Sunday together, Jeff, because Friday it was just so busy that couldn't really chat with anybody, and then to go, I don't know what could get any better than that. I mean, to have the Wager Talk booth on Sunday, watch overtime together, have some nice, a little bit of chicken tenders, some burgers, a couple drinks in us, watching Arizona in overtime. So, and I got to thank you very much for the shirts and the apparel. Oh my goodness, here I'll move the microphone a little bit. I love these shirts you gave me. So thank you so much.
Our pleasure. And, again, shout out to Kelly and all the Wager Talk staff. The meet and greet was fabulous. But as you said, it was nice to have that extra day over there, kind of the calm, and the sportsbook was busy, but nothing like it was over the weekend for your meet and greet. It gave us some time to actually be able to sit next to each other, talk, and hear each other and not have to yell and scream.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable. I mean, I know that you're there for longer than just a couple of days like I was. And a few other people I know are still there as well. But I'll tell you, if I was going to be there for, a week and a half to a couple of weeks, I definitely would have to. We talk about managing our bankrolls. I think there'd be some load management for me if I was there for about a week and a half, because I feel like I could sleep for about 2 days right now. And I was only there in Vegas for a couple of days. So definitely lived it up and had fun while I was there. But it's kind of one of those bittersweet moments, when you get back home, you're always happy to see your bed and be home and see the family and stuff. And then I'm sure in a couple of days, I'll be calling you up and saying, man, I wish I'm back there with you right now. So just like that, though, we're back in the normal schedule.
You're right. The I actually had the show prior to this, and I literally ran downstairs outside to the hot tub, got a quick half hour in to
Oh, my.
rejuvenate and to get
I don't want
back
to
in.
hear it. I don't want to hear it.
All right, listen, before we dive into the board and stuff today, kind of a smaller menu on the pucks. Tell everyone that you're in these lanes. You're living the dream. You're talking sports. You're wagering on sports. You're educating everyone, and in Canada most of the time. You've made a couple trips now to Vegas. Explain everyone initially your thought process, and then when you get to Vegas and you're in the fire, the feelings that go through, and just kind of processing the whole trip, and just in general to be a part of March Madness.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, just a lot of people that I know, going to Vegas, and everybody, you think about what you see in the movies, right? Everybody, that's what they have, the movies or social media, and it's gambling, it's party, and it's all this crazy stuff. But like, realistically, I always tell people, even if you're just a family man or someone that doesn't even gamble, you could have a blast in Vegas because of the environment you're around. I mean, Fremont Street Saturday night was one of the best environments I've been around in a long time. And it was just so much fun. And one of the friends I was with, he looked at me and was like, do you see one person here that looks like even mildly like sad or not like smiling ear to ear? Because every single person in that area, everyone's shoulder to shoulder, just smiling. I couldn't stop myself from smiling. There's people dancing, singing, everyone, talking about sports together. I'd say that when you get to Vegas, you just have to be ready for the unbelievable atmosphere you're about to be a part of. And then you add in March Madness, everyone's repping their jerseys, their t-shirts. You're at this sports book, you're at that sports book. One guy's cheering for this, one guy's cheering for that. I remember looking over at you across the booth, and you're telling me no basket, no basket. I mean, everyone's just getting excited and cheering on their teams. And I just think that I've been there twice. That was my third time. Obviously, both times I was there, like I told you last week, were in December, and it was just a way different vibe than it was in those other times I've been there. You can just tell people are there for a different reason. People are there to watch and cheer on their teams. The first round of March Madness is crazy. It's just a great weekend to be there. And, I just think really just the atmosphere, the environment of it all. Everywhere you go, there's a TV. I couldn't walk by a TV without stopping for about 2 minutes to watch a little bit of a game or sweat out a wager. But yeah, it was great. And for anybody watching the show that's never been to Vegas, my 2 cents, because I think I'd still call myself a Vegas rookie. I'm still in my early contract with Las Vegas. I'd say it's just a great atmosphere. I mean, you don't need to be going to the nicest restaurants or the nicest clubs or all this to have a good time in Vegas. On Saturday night, I just for the first couple hours, I just walked around, Jeff, and like I told you, I was smiling ear to ear on Fremont Street. And, I don't even, not to get into this type of talk, but just even for me here in the north of the border and eastern part of Canada, and I know it was similar for you at one point in Boston and Mass, the restrictions. I mean, to be there and come home now, and they've loosened them here actually yesterday, but to be around so many people, see so many people's faces and smiling, and everyone just having so much fun together. And also, one thing I found about Vegas, and I'm sure you could speak to this, you meet people from all over the world, not even just North America, all over the world. And one of my favorite things to ask anybody in the elevator or at the sports book, where are you from? and all of a sudden it sparks like a 10-15 minute conversation. So it was a great time, and I recommend everybody to go to Vegas, and especially during March Madness weekend.
And people ask me all the time, how do you do these trips, 16, 17 days and nights? I mean, I'd be broken 3 or 4 days. How do you do it? And the more you come here, the more you find this is the way you're able to spend your time. You talked about Fremont Street. I love to go to Fremont Street. I love to walk the strip. People watching is it's such a big thing. I get in the free cardio, the free sun tanning, and then you just watch and you just be that sponge and take everything in. You're not Listen, Vegas back in the old days was come into a smoky filled room, put your money in the slot machines, the crap table, the blackjack, spend all your money, and that's it. It's not like that anymore. Times have changed where you can do so much here. You don't have to be gambling 24/7, or you're going to be that one that's out for a week and you're changing your flight on day 2 or 3.
Well, I hope I never ever get to that point where I'm changing my flight to head home. But yeah, it's awesome, man. And I remember you used to always tell me that before leading up to the trip, where you'd use that expression, getting in your cardio, and I was always like, "What do you mean getting in your cardio?" But you're right. I mean, there's so much to walk. It was unbelievable. I mean, I had to get a COVID test before I came home, and the CVS where my COVID test was at like the very, very, very end of the strip. And so, walking from one end to the next and then walking back, and you're going to Planet Hollywood, you're going to checking out the Bellagio, it's exercise and you don't even know it. So, but honestly, I'd like to do what you're doing sometime, Jeff, where I'm not just there for an in and out, because I find that, I mean, let me ask you, like, what would you say, like, you're a lot more settled in, right? Like, you don't feel like you have to squeeze things in, I'm guessing. You don't feel like you have to go here today or go here tomorrow, because you probably, you have more time. You can see this person, you can see that person. You're not really too worried about it, and that's one thing for me, like being there with my friends. We obviously had a great time, and there were lots of perks to going to some Wager Talk events and stuff like that. But there were lots of like tourist stuff that we probably didn't get to do because we were only there for a couple days.
I'll bring up the 4 initials FOMO,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing. Now, this past weekend, I was kind of I had the chaperone of the real Vegas Dave Sharapan, and on Saturday while the games were going on, I was sitting with him and his family watching a live college softball game. His daughter was playing, so I was okay with that. Then we end up Saturday night at the Circa. We got on with Derek Stevens, Paulie, Mitch, Matt Yeomans after the games. It was amazing. And then Sunday, started the Cosmopolitan, met beating the book B2B Rob there, and then we ended up at Westgate, and then we ended up at a little watering hole where Matt Yeomans and the whole crew was sitting there, and that's how we ended it. But now it's like the calm again before the storm. So I am able to, hey, set up an appointment later today down at the MGM Grand, able to walk over to the South Point, place the wagers for the day, and I'm done. So it does slow the process down, and to know that I have this much time, so I'm not running around like a chicken with my head cut off.
And that's just the thing, I'd like to be able to experience that without, feeling like I have to get everything in, and especially being there for March Madness. Because you're there for 2 March Madness weeks, right?
I am leaving on the red eye on the 31st. So I was there for the opening weekend. I'll be there for the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and then again, slowing the process down. And then I'll be wheels up, I think around midnight on Thursday night.
I have to ask you this. We were having kind of a debate with the Wager Talk crew. I know you're an early riser type of person, but you're on the East Coast just like me, 1 hour earlier than me, usually when you're back east. Do you like the Vegas time zone as far as watching, or do you like it back home? Because I know you said back you said before to me that when just the family goes to sleep, you head to the office, you do some work and stuff like that, and it's nice to watch the highlights and get ready for the next day. But also, you get up really early. We did a show before I left, and I think it was 7 a.m. for you or something like that. So that was no problem. You said, do you like the 4 o'clock start, or would you rather 7 o'clock start back east?
I can tell you in Vegas, the coffee pot is set at 4 a.m. So
Wow.
that's 7 o'clock back east. So because I try to keep it business as usual. So the coffee pot's on at 4. I shake the cobwebs, I get moving, I get the work done, get some shows off the breakfast bankroll, 7 a.m. Vegas time, 10:30 back east. Our show right now, it's 10 o'clock here. I am that one though. I'll admit I'm walking back to my room at 7:30 with dinner in the bag, and I'm lying down back at 9 a.m. Going over the night, getting set for the morning just to do it again. The toughest thing is when I get back east, I'm still on that West Coast time, and to reset the battery. Not so much the first day, but the second day back, it usually hits you like a ton of bricks.
Well, so we had a red eye from, so we had to check out of our room at 11 o'clock on Monday, but our flight wasn't until 11 o'clock at night, Monday night. So we pretty much had no room to like lay down and relax in. We had our luggage just being held, and we were at the sports book walking around most of the day. And so I leave Vegas at 11 o'clock at night, and I don't get back to my house at about 6 or 7 o'clock the next day. And then I had to get home, slept for about 4 hours, and then I had a radio spot from 2 in the morning until 3:15 in the morning. So, and then here I am today, and thank God for coffee. I mean, that's the thing. So for you, I get the time adjustment, but hats off to you for kind of keeping that, getting up that early. Obviously, I'm not going to hold myself to doing that. I'm not going to lie. You were probably awake for the next day when I was still awake from the previous night a couple of times while I was there. But yeah, it's I'm excited to keep traveling though. I'm young, and connections and networking is really important to me, and those face to face and the handshakes to me are really important. And I want to keep traveling, and especially not having a family yet. I want to get all that stuff taken care of, and before I get any little ones running around, so I think getting used to it and kind of just, getting my practice, I guess, for this traveling, because you hear everyone always complain about jet lag, but I really agree with you that it doesn't hit you until the next day. Because right now I'm fine. Like you're almost like, it's like your first day when you get there to a vacation, you're running on adrenaline. Right now I'm running on adrenaline, but tomorrow I might be a little bit tired, but not for your show. I wouldn't miss your show if there was an earthquake out here.
Shout out to Billy Hewlin. He's getting ready for what we're hoping is a July trip for the World Series of Poker, to get him and his wife out there. So shout out to Billy. I got to talk. I'm going to switch gears here. We're on a nice roll. We're 14-5 the last 19 games. The pucks have been really, really good to us. I've been catching a lot of opening numbers that are alarm bells to me, that by the time they get to the public, they're getting steamed the other way. So I'm a big a fan of trusting and respecting the opening number, and it's worked very well of late. Now, yesterday, I got bit by it. I was on the Rangers. The Rangers opened up minus 180. They closed at minus 143. Got a 2-0 lead, and one of the best goalies in the planet allows a 5 spot in the second period, and they go down to the Devils. We come back with the Stars over the Oilers. I guess my first question to you, Andrew, is he starting to leak? Are we hitting the wall, as I like to say, in the NHL? I mean, I expect the Rangers, obviously, to be a tough out in the playoffs, but I've seen this now a couple times from him. Any concerns?
I'm going to take a different approach and say that the Rangers defense is finally starting to be exposed. I guess I kind of have that reputation of defending goaltenders. I don't know why, because I never was a goalie in any sport I played. But, you know, the goals against average he has, the save percentage he has, obviously last night, I'm not going to defend that. But when you look at what we've seen from this team and their expected goal numbers and expected goals against, the advanced analytical numbers show how much he's really done for them. Not only just his goals against average, but I really think that Shesterkin has been underappreciated from the betting market and even the media, even though he's a Vezina nominee. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but when you look at this New York Rangers team and people think about how often we hear as hockey handicappers, oh no, Georgiev is in nets, we have to fade the Rangers. Why is that? I think we have to ask ourselves, is Georgiev that bad or is Shesterkin really that good? And I think, what we're really starting to see is that the Rangers aren't as deep as we think they are. They really aren't. I mean, if Kreider, if Panarin, if these guys, Mika, are not playing to their top tier capabilities, I really don't think they're as strong as they think they are. I don't think the depth from the Rangers, that third line, has been as good as they hoped it would be. And I think they get exposed sometimes. So they're one of those teams where they're relying a lot more on their goaltender than people think. And I've been saying that for about a month and a half now. And now all of a sudden Shesterkin has a few bad games and everyone's calling him out. Why is the goalie getting called out? Because the team allowed 7 goals. Sure, he had a bad game. I'm not going to defend that. But it's happening more often than not now, where if this guy doesn't have a 2.2 goals against average, then they lose, and it's his fault all of a sudden. I don't know, but I think that losing it, the first time that they put up 7 goals, I think, against the New York Rangers, I think it was since 1995. So you're up 2-0 there, Jeff. I can't. I know you probably weren't happy with that one, but it's hard to argue with that number there since 1995. So at least if you're going to lose a pick like that, some insane number or stat like that's going to come out.
Well, and I was blessed because the Stars battled back from 3-2 down in the third. You always get nervous, and with a McDavid and that type of offense, I did get nervous, but blessed for a nice, strong third period and closed out. So we lose juice for the day. All is well. 3-1 on the week, plus 2.03 units. I can't complain. I won't complain. There. Two other trades. We talked last week about it. Thoughts on the Fleury trade?
Well, I really like Minnesota. I think that we'll see how much of a difference that makes. I mean, Cam Talbot, I guess, is someone that could have a great game one day and then the next day go down. But as we were just talking about goaltenders and how I feel about goalies and what their defense really means to them, going from a Minnesota team or going from a Blackhawks team to a Wild team is a hell of a lot different defensively and offensively and consistency wise. So I think that the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury, what people were saying, well, do you really want him this year with how he's been playing? And to me, I'm not trying to make anybody mad when I say this, and we all handicap games differently, but the analytical people that are handicapping the NHL right now kind of bug me with their goalie statistics, because to me, it's different for every team. The goals saved above average statistic, that's supposed to be just goals that you should allow, like an average shot that you should allow. What people don't realize is that even though that should be the same on each team, it just isn't. You play better when you're on a better team, in my opinion. You have more confidence. You have more confidence in the guys in front of you. You aren't facing as many shots. You aren't prepared to, go against, stars on 2-on-1 breakaways every game. And if you're Fleury, think about what the Blackhawks defense was doing for him every night, Jeff. I'll tell you what, I'm sure he's happy to be going up with a Minnesota defense that's a lot bigger, stronger, and of course that Wild offense is a little more consistent. So I think it's good. I think it's kind of do you have any idea why he didn't want to go to Canada? Was it because of family? Because I heard that he genuinely just said, I'm not going to any Canadian teams.
I don't know the details. I didn't hear anything slip through the cracks or anything. Um, I don't know that answer. My first thought process might have been the COVID issues and the
Right.
protocols. That would have been my first issue. I don't know. I think he's in a good spot. We talked for the last few weeks about futures. We've talked about the Wild, and we do know hot goaltending takes you a long, long way in the playoff push in the Stanley Cup. He's been through the process. He's
Mm.
been there. So I think it's a great ad by the Wild.
I wanted to mention something to you on the show today because we always talk about this type of stuff. And I wanted to pick your brain. This isn't really anything that I have a take on. So I'm throwing something at you here. But I saw this on the Canadian, on TSN here in Canada, the ESPN of Canada. They're trying to get more betting content out, right? Just like everybody else is. So they posted something I thought was very interesting. If you, I don't have it pulled up right now, but if you take a look at FanDuel, DraftKings, these places, the odds to win the Stanley Cup, the odds to win Western Conference, and then the odds to make the playoffs. Take a look at the Vegas Golden Knights when you have a chance. It is the most peculiar thing you'll ever see. They're the 7th highest team to win the playoffs or something like that. But yet they are favored to miss the playoffs at -200. They're favored to miss the playoffs, but what the odds makers are saying is if they do squeak in, then we have them favored like top 5 to 7 to win the playoff or win the Stanley Cup. That to me is unbelievable. I mean, the way the markets work like that, the way the numbers are posted, I want to find it here, but the way that all works to me is so fascinating. And it makes a lot of people scratch their heads. I mean, I got to get your thoughts on that. It's just so cool. They're a minus price to miss the playoffs, but if they get in, they're top favorites to win the conference and the cup.
I think a lot has to do with the preseason, the pre-flop, all the money that Vegas attracts. Other than the Avalanche, they're almost like a public darling for the NHL in the Western Conference. So they're getting so much monies in preseason as the season starts and progresses. Now they're actually giving the people outs, saying, okay, because I saw it at -180 and you're saying it's -200. I'll compare it to the Nets. The Nets were the preseason favorite to win it all. They've been horrific. Yet everyone knows if they get into the playoffs, they get a healthy Harden. If Brooklyn and the state of New York passes or loosens the mandate, allows Kyrie now to play home games, add Ben Simmons, who now has a disc in his back or something. That's a whole nother story. The same as the Lakers.
We do a whole show about Ben Simmons.
Exactly. And I would say it's the same as the Lakers. One of the pre-favorites, they added Westbrook. They have Anthony Davis. And, of course, they have LeBron, who's leading the league in scoring at year 18 or 19, whatever it is. We know they might win a playoff round into the play-in game or whatever. They're not going far. So it is an amazing concept that allows people to say, okay, I'm holding a pre-flop ticket of the Knights at 8-1. Now I have an opportunity maybe to hedge out a little at -180 or 200 and maybe recoup some of that money.
So what would you recommend people to do as far as Vegas goes? I mean, is it a buy opportunity to buy on them to make the playoffs right now? If you could, if your book offers that, is that too good to be true for Addict to get a plus price with Vegas to squeak their way in and turn things around?
Well, if you were, let's say you were holding a $2 ticket on Vegas at 8-1 to win the cup, maybe 6-1 to win the West preseason pre-flop. And now you're looking at how they're playing. Are you personally willing to go in and lay $4 to make $2 in case they don't? So let's say they squeak in. Now you're -400. God bless. Now you're -400 with the team that just squeaked in. Now you're stuck in that first round. Do I bet against them to try to get my 400 bet. So you're in a real tricky spot when you're laying minus 180 or minus 200.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's to me where the futures market gets very interesting. And that's why I love looking at things like that, where you're trying to examine. I think that if people are interested in the futures market right now, you kind of I'd say personally, you're better off just waiting until before the playoffs start, really, because you're going to get different odds maybe from today versus a month from now, but you're going to know the seeding. You're going to know how the team played with their changes. That, for example, the Florida Panthers, right? This is just my opinion. I'm already locked in with the Pens to win the East and the Hurricanes to win the whole thing at 14-1. I like the Florida Panthers. I'm potentially going to be looking at them at some point, but who are they playing in the first round? How's Giroux going to fit in on that team? How are these guys going to fit in with them? How are the new defensemen going to fit in with them? We don't have those answers yet. So I think it's to me an opportunity to just wait. And if you like what you're seeing in the regular season, then bet on them in the playoffs, where I don't want to just, but I will say this, come playoff time, I'm actually mostly a series better. I don't know, because you and I started working together after the NHL last year, right? In the CFL, I think. So we didn't get to talk playoffs. So I really, I'm more of I talk about all the time how low volumes really work for me this year in NHL. But I'll tell you what, in the playoffs, it's more of a big bets on series and then kind of kick the feet back and pick my spots inside. And, as a handicapper, as someone that sells plays, people always ask me, why aren't you, selling your picks every single night? And I'm saying, well, it's the same team playing. I'd rather just pick who's going to win that series pre-flop and kind of go from there. And what's also great is that you can bet the in-series bets as well. So instead of just taking a team to win game 2, if the favorite goes down 1-0, boom, I'll step in and take them at even money or something like that. Do you do that as well? Do you bet the series?
100%, Andrew, you are spot on. Here's what we do in the NHL, in the NBA, is once the playoffs are set, we'll take a look. We're into the futures market pre-flop as the season goes, yada, yada, yada. We were on Carolina and Florida pre-flop in the East to start the season. Currently out West, I'm still shopping around, to be 100% honest with you. But as now you get the playoffs, we will back certain series. Now, what you just said is perfect. Let's just say, for example, we're on Florida first series. Okay. They get up 2-0 and now they're going on the road. You have a free swing, in my opinion, on the road team. Why? Because if Florida loses, it's 2-1. It's still anyone's series, right? Florida wins, they're up 3-0. Most likely they're going to win the series. So you have a perfect opportunity. Let's say you have a 1 unit on Florida to win the series against Toronto. Okay. They're up 2-0. They go to Toronto. You take Toronto minus 120 in game 3. If they lose, let's say you put a half unit on it. If they lose, well, now you got Florida to win the series. You still got a half unit on it and you can just play it out.
Exactly. And that's the way I think people should look at it in general. But unfortunately, you don't really hear that too much. People want that money now. People want that money the second the game ends, where I'd rather trust my instincts and my gut that I'm going to bet the series correctly and not just one game, I'd way rather look at a 7-game series than a 1-game set. Of course, you look at a team, how often do we look at, some team goes 2-0 at home to start off a series. Next team goes home and goes 2-0 as well. I'm not saying I won't bet that team when they get home after being down 2-0 and stuff like that. But so as far as the West goes, any thoughts there? I mean, Colorado adds, Arturi Lehkonen from the Canadiens, a guy that maybe doesn't have his name out there as much, but he's actually scored some really big goals. The goal against Vegas, goal against the Leafs a couple years ago in the playoffs, several big goals for him, and he's just had a great year for them. They pick up, obviously, another defenseman. I mean, Colorado, rightfully so, Jeff, with the odds they have, but who are you looking at as far as a sleeper? Who can we? Obviously, Minnesota adds Flower. I mean, what do you think for a sleeper? We're talking about a shopping list here.
Well, initially, it's again, we've missed all the good numbers on the Avs, so you can do one of two things. You can try to get cute and play them series to series, or you can just bite the bullet, grab them to win the West, grab them to win the Cup, have that into your resume, and then try to go against them as this progresses. I do like the Wild. I like the addition of Fleury. I like everything about them. I think the price is right. Depends upon where you shop. We've talked about the Blues at length. The one team, I was sitting in front of Circa and I was with the Tampa Bay guy and he goes, I've cashed the last 2 years. I got to go play him again. And he ran to the window and got him at 7-1. The one team I don't think that's getting enough respect, and I don't know if they've peaked too soon, is the Calgary Flames. I mean, they've been playing lights out. They've been playing great hockey. It's a decent price. It's not the number that you could have got before the season started. Is the price?
What is it right now, Jeff? Do you know?
I want to say they were like the second favorite out of the West. They were like 8-9-1, something like that. Is the price right there, or do we have to move further down? I have no problem grabbing the Wild. I think 18-1, something like that. Crazy number. It was kind of crazy. I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Is there a number or a team right now that sticks out to you?
Well, I was going to say the same thing as you, and you kind of you don't like to just feel like you're jumping on a team because of the goaltender, but I mean the experience is a huge factor for me, and I always say if I was a chef, my recipe for success in the playoffs is goaltending, depth, and physicality. And it seems like that's kind of what the Minnesota Wild have. They secured the goaltender. I think they're a pretty deep team, and they're physical. They're a big team, besides Kaprizov, but he doesn't really have to be big with how fast he is and the skill level that he has. The St. Louis Blues are a team that I'm with you. I think they're dangerous as well. What back east? I've heard a lot of people talking about your Bruins. What do you think about them? I mean, the odds we're getting with the Bees after everything. I feel like the Maple Leafs did their documentary last year. I would have loved to have seen a documentary on the Boston Bruins locker room this year, because everything that went on with the goaltending situation, with obviously Big Z leaving and Bergeron takes over the room. There's a lot going on with that team, and all I know is they started winning. They've won consistently over the past little while.
I was going to ask you about, they made a great move in the deadline. They finally added a defenseman that actually now McAvoy isn't, a one-man stand-in. So they got a 1A and a 1B now there. You know what? You're getting a decent price. You're not getting a great price. You're getting a decent price. I just have the mindset. I don't know how they match up. I'm not buying the Lightning. I think the Lightning run is over. I'm in on the Carolina. I'm in on the Panthers. I don't think they have as many weapons, obviously, as the Leafs. Can the Bruins make a deep run? Of course they can. Can Swayman get hot? Is Ullmark okay in a spotty situation? The problem, Bruins Nations, it doesn't matter. We're winning round one. We're bowing out round two. That's just been the recipe for the last couple years. The trade, do they have enough to compete against the Panthers, the Hurricanes, and the Lightning? Yeah. I'm asking you that.
Well, I think they have that recipe that I talked about. They do have depth. It wasn't alive for a long time in the season, but we're starting to see a little bit more. It's funny because for the first time in a long time, I'd say the East might be less of a, I don't know, I wouldn't say less of a crapshoot, but there's the West is kind of, besides Colorado, it's really, really competitive. And the East, the whole year, we've kind of known it's Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay, maybe throw in the Leafs, but can we? I don't know. I'm biased. But I mean, that's kind of been the thing. So it's kind of funny because in the NHL and the NBA, they've kind of reversed roles this year, I found, where the East is almost more competitive in the NBA this year, and the West overall is more competitive in the NHL. So I look forward to watching the playoffs as far as that goes and seeing how it goes. For Florida, Florida's kind of a have to see it to believe it type thing. And that's the thing. I mean, they were active. They were clear buyers at the deadline. They obviously couldn't get through last year, but we'll see what happens. The way that I know we're short on time here a little bit, but the way that format got set up now, I find it so weird because sometimes the first round matchup, Jeff, is almost harder than the second round. I'll be honest, I miss the 1 versus 8 because that to me was just the way it should be. Now with this whole wild card stuff, the way they set it up, you could have a harder matchup in the first round. Look at the Habs last year. I mean, go 7 games with the Leafs and then sweep the Jets in the second round.
It's funny you say that because Bruins fans were licking their chops. They cruised through, round 1, and in come the Islanders. And from Bruins Nation, it was a series again that they thought that they were supposed to win. They got up in that series, and then in come the Islanders and closed them out. So I think you're 100% spot on.
I'm excited. We're talking March 23rd right now, and I'm just getting super excited for the playoffs. Boston was in Montreal over the weekend, went to overtime. Of course, they came back. Marchand finishes it. I'll be at the Bruins at Montreal April 24th. So I'm hoping to see a game that's just as good, but it's hard to top that. I wish they had a dud of a game so they could save the good one for when I'm there, but I'm looking forward to it.
The scroll has been happening. Hey, listen, everyone here, great show. And unfortunately, I know Mr. Andrew is tied up because he's got another show coming up real soon. So you're going to have to go watch that show for any picks tonight. It's a small NHL card, and I'm not going to be the one that messes up his next show because we're blessed to have him here. We could talk for hours. We know that. The scroll has been rolling throughout the whole show. Andrew, in a nutshell, tell everyone where to find you, what's going on the rest of the week and weekend.
Yeah, I was first of all, just great to meet you and everybody in Vegas. It was an unbelievable time. I already can't wait to catch a Red Sox game, hopefully with you this summer. Look, I'm back on Puck Time, our hockey show, every weekday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can find that on the Wager Talk YouTube channel and podcast network. So just looking forward to getting back on that every single day. We break down 4 games, have a best bet at the end. And as far as our Puck Time apparel stuff, real quick, we are launching our website next week with T-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs and all that good stuff. So if you went to the meet and greet, you did get some stuff already. If you didn't, you'll have an opportunity to get some next week on our website.
Can't wait. The one, the only, the myth, the legend from across the border, Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk at Mayflower Sports. Go to YouTube, subscribe now. It's free. Hit the like button. Tell your neighbor this, that, and the other thing and get on board. So always remember this. If you are wagering or investing today, always wager responsibly. If you do have a problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number available. Ask for help. Why? Myself and Andrew care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Andrew McInnis and McInnis Picks at Wager Talk. We wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy the games. Have some fun, and we'll see you soon.